there's another level of AI, and that level is the mind, the consciousness of these entities. So basically, what we're doing is we're on a path of being connected to the mind of these entities, so that mind does human thinking and human emotional response.
Hej och välkomna till Folkets Radio. Welcome to the People's Radio. Today with world-renowned conspiracy researcher, author of more than 20 books and a champion of free speech, David Icke. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you very much. It's nearly 30 now.
Well, so you have been saying for a long time that the global elite is planning a fusion between AI and the human mind. You've been warning this really for decades, but now we're actually approaching the moment when this could happen, and it could be the end of humanity as we know it. So before we dive into this huge topic, I would like just to begin on a more personal note. Ever since you started on your journey, you've been subject to enormous abuse and ridicule. And I remember an interview a few years back where you were asked about this, and you said, to my surprise, that it was actually the greatest gift you were ever given, because it set you free from the prison that most of us live in, which is the fear of what other people think. So perhaps we could just begin by telling us, how did you break out of this prison? Was it a momentous experience, sort of insight, or was it a gradual process? Tell us.
Well, what you've begun with is the foundation of so much human control, because people keep to themselves what they think, and they don't do what they would like to do often, because of this concern of how other people will see them. Now, this connects into a much greater picture, because one of the foundations of the conspiracy, the global conspiracy, orchestrated through what I call a global cult, a global network of secret societies with an interlocking leadership, is to set the norms in society, to set out what is normal, considered normal. Now, these normals change. So we have what is now called the new normal after COVID. But every society throughout human history has had a normal, which people are judged by. So another fundamental part of the perceptual manipulation that is the foundation of this conspiracy is to control the sense of the possible. So you limit what the population believe is possible. You want them to operate within tram lines of the normal. Now, the normal, like I say, will change as things happen and things are discovered, but there's always a normal. And so if you step out of that norm, then much of the rest of the population will jump upon you as being either dangerous or crazy, because you're outside the normal. And so what is normal? Normal is merely what we normally experience in any era. And anything outside that normal is considered paranormal, in the words of science, or strange, or far out, or nutty. But of course, if you look at history, the people that have pushed humanity on and expanded their awareness of possibility have been those who have stepped out of the normal and taken on the ridicule and taken on the abuse for breaching the norms. And what we have, and this is the foundation of the whole thing, and indeed the foundation of the conspiracy, it's control of human perception. What we call reality is vastly more advanced, and there's vastly more to know about it. And there's vastly more to know about the nature of the conspiracy of human control itself. But what we have is a central core of the alternative media that is focused on Trump or Harris, or this political leader or that political leader. And it's a myopia perception, which is passed on to the population, of actually the scale and depth and breadth of the conspiracy. It's like, you're in a perceptual prison cell being imposed upon you, and the mainstream of the alternative media has widened that prison cell slightly to encompass the perception of a conspiracy of some kind. But it's still a prison cell, because I've always worked on the principle of whatever I know or think I know, there's always more to know. Anyone that says, oh, I've got it now, well, you haven't, because none of us have got it. We're getting it as best we can. There's always more to know. And what has happened with the alternative media, it has coagulated, solidified into a tiny, tiny area, which I'm talking about the mainstream of it. And most of it goes under the name these days of MAGA, which is a really myopic way of viewing the conspiracy. So now we've gone from, in the old alternative media, realizing that we live in one-party states, to saying the deep state is the Democrats in America. It's not. It's all of them. Come on, man. I mean, have a look at it. And the idea that Trump is not part of that deep state is ridiculous when you see what he's doing in the United States currently, and what he really stands for. So what we need is not an awakening to a slightly bigger prison cell. We need an awakening that is never ending. Coming around to the real point of the question, I decided, 36 years ago, I've always been a rebel anyway, but 36 years ago, I'm not having that. I'm going to explore what I want to know, like, who am I? Where am I? What is this reality? Why is the world as it is? And if people don't like it, well, they can do the other thing, because I'm going to do it anyway. And so what happened with the extraordinary, historic, really, levels of ridicule in the 1990s was that it did set me free. It set me free of this prison that most people live in, which is the fear of what other people think, or the fear of what other people might say, what other people might think of me. I don't have that. I don't go through that thought process when I'm considering what I'm going to say or what I'm going to write. I just say, can I justify this with the evidence? And if I can, I'll say it and I'll write it. And I hope I'm an example for people that you can do that and not only survive but prosper. The key is to realize that people who abuse you today will be stopping you in the street asking what you think of this or that eventually. And I know that's true because that's happening to me. in so many ways, you started off here with a very, very important topic, which is how we are ruled by norms and not from the point of freedom of saying what we think and saying what we believe, and to heck with how anyone receives it at the time, because, you know, like I say, they'll think something else tomorrow. And if it's not said, then we don't move on. Like I said earlier, it's the people that have breached the norms and taken all the ridicule and all the abuse, often even being burned at the bloody stake, if you go back far enough. They're the ones that have changed society for the better, not the ones that kept their mouth shut for fear of what other people might think.
So let's move on to this huge topic of the fusion between AI and the human mind. And perhaps for the people who are not familiar with your work, I know that you see AI not maybe as everybody understands it.
This is a massive, massive topic, which takes us into some far out places. What I have always worked on, as I think I've already mentioned, is whatever I know, there's always more to know. Once you fall for the trap of thinking you've got it, well, you're just confirming you haven't. So I've been seeking out deeper and deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole, if you like. And that's taken me from the early 90s, when I started uncovering this global cult and how it worked and how it controlled human society and how it controlled the political parties that have any chance of forming a government, and many that haven't, how it's controlled the banking system, the financial system in general, how it controls Silicon Valley, how it controls the World Health Organization, on and on and on and on and on. But then you ask the question, because you know there's always more to know, when did this start? And you start going back and you get comfortably into the ancient world. And you can see that what we see now as a conspiracy of human control, of human dystopia, has actually been in the works for a very long time, or time as we perceive it. And so then you ask the question, so people have been born into this cult network. They've served it as it's gone through its process of gaining more and more and more centralization of power until it's now global. And then they've died, and then other people have come in and they've done the same and they've died. Well, what has been the coordinating force throughout this whole period that's orchestrated this? And why would you give your life to advancing an agenda that the outcome of which you'd never see? And so that starts to take you into other realms of reality, other dimensions of reality that interpenetrate this one. And so you start researching the nature of reality itself, and you find that actually the amount of the range of human sight, what we call visible light, is so tiny, it's hysterical. It's ridiculous. We can hardly see anything. We just see a tiny band of frequency. And in the same space that we are occupying is the entirety of infinite reality. But it's all operating on different wavelengths, different frequencies, different bands of frequency, and thus it's denied us. And you then look at the ancients, the ancient world, and you see that they were worshipping pantheons of gods. And, you know, we talk about the Greek pantheon and various other well-known pantheons of gods. But actually, if you look at it, everywhere in the world had pantheons of gods. The Hindu pantheon has still survived, but a lot of the pantheons fused into one god in terms of the religions that people follow. And so my question was, well, who are these gods? And then in the early mid 1990s, as I was researching this global cult and its personnel, you then realize that key players in it are engaging in satanic ritual, including human sacrifice ritual. What? Why? And then you bring it all together and you realize that the gods, the pantheons of gods that the ancients were worshipping, is the same pantheons of gods that the elite today are worshipping. And they give them different names in different cultures and societies, but they're talking about the same entities. And the whole dystopian conspiracy being orchestrated by this global cult within the human realm of visible light is actually being orchestrated, is originating from this other level known as the astral level of dimension, which is outside of human sight. But of course, you look at the millions and millions now of near-death experiencers who, when they leave the body, when their body ceases to function for a short while and they then is recovered, in the meantime, they find themselves with extraordinarily compelling common themes, experiencing this astral dimension, which interpenetrates this one. It's just outside of visible light, so we're not aware of it. And so it's this other dimensional level that is orchestrating the manipulation of human society. And, people think that the human realm now, and I completely understand why. I was born in 1952. I remember what it was like then. That this technological revolution that's going on, actually technological takeover, is incredibly advanced, amazing things. It's the Stone Age compared with what is possible in this astral dimension. And what's happening is that human perception, human attention has been more and more and more targeted in terms of control. And the idea is that, and now it's openly being suggested and promoted, is that artificial intelligence is connected to the human brain, the human body brain, so that the artificial intelligence becomes the human mind and emotional response. And, don't take my word for it. You look at people like Ray Kurzweil, the so-called futurist executive at Google, who's written widely on this. I think this yellow book at the back here is one of his books. The singularity is near. And the singularity is when it is said that artificial intelligence breaches the potential intelligence of humans. And he said that by 2030, we're in 2025, humans will be connected to artificial intelligence, or at least that process will have started in earnest. And after that connection is made, AI will do more and more of human thinking until human thinking is basically negligible. He means deleted. That's what he means. And so the next question you ask is, okay, so what is artificial intelligence? So we think of it as algorithms, and on one level, yeah, it's algorithms. We have a level of AI which learns from data input, which of course we're giving it every day through the, well, I'm not, but so many people are, people that should know better actually, through Chat-GPT and Musk's Grok and all these other sources, this Alexa of Amazon and so on, all these different sources in which we are interacting with AI and the internet. We're giving data to AI so that it understands more about humans than humans do, which is not saying much because, of course, the nature of humans is kept from us as best they can. And so, okay, there are those levels of AI. But what I've been saying for, well, decades now, really, is there's another level of AI. And that level is the mind, the consciousness of these entities. So basically, what we're doing is we're on a path of being connected to the mind of these entities, so that mind does human thinking and human emotional response. And what is that mind never going to do once in place? It's never going to say, who am I? Where am I? What is this place? What's going on in the world? Why is it as it is? It's never going to ask those questions, because that level of AI is never going to even consider them, because it doesn't want us to consider them. It doesn't want us to know that. So up to this point, we've had perception controlled by controlling the flow of information through censorship, through emphasizing one narrative and excluding the other. And that's the way it's been done to this point. But now we're entering this epoch changing situation where they won't have to manipulate how we think, because how we think will come direct from them. And I cannot stress enough the nature and the importance of realizing that we are standing on this perceptual precipice. And, you know, I'm see that this is something I've been saying about Elon Musk for a very long time, long before he bought Twitter or was allowed to buy Twitter, that he is a sales pitcher for this very scenario I'm talking about. Before he bought it, a lot of people in the alternative media were looking at Musk and saying, hold on a minute, this guy's a transhumanist. He wants to fuse humans with artificial intelligence. This guy needs to be watched. But once he bought Twitter, vast tracts of the formerly alternative media suddenly stopped saying these things. They stopped identifying what he was doing. And instead, he's one of us now. Oh, he's free speech absolutist, Elon. Oh, we love Elon. He's just moving in on the UK now, by the way, is the way he moved in on MAGA in the United States. He's starting to move in on the UK as well and do a MAGA in the UK. But there was this change. I saw it. I watched it happen in my incredulity, where he was given a free run now on the whole AI thing. And just a few weeks ago, very few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, he said, finally, because it was always coming, wasn't it, Elon? Well, yeah. He said, I'm not going to be in denial anymore about AI. I'm going to go for it. or words to that effect. And if you go to Elon Musk's X page account, 90%, the other 10% is pushing things like Starlink and his SpaceX, but something like 80, 90% is pushing this AI under the guise of this AI system called Grok, he calls Grok. And it staggers me to see so-called alternative people who are asking Grok about this, that, or the other. What is this true, Grok? What do you think about this, Grok? You're asking questions and you're being assimilated into the very system designed to ensnare and delete your freedom, even of thought. And you're asking it questions. What are you doing?
And since you mentioned that behind AI, actually, it's like an interface with these entities from the astral. So a listener sent me a video with a British, I don't know him, but it's a meditation teacher, David Manning, who said that he started using Chat-GPT just to help him, write newsletters and creating images. But very soon he would feel like a seductive pull. And since he was into meditation, I guess he could feel also its energetic presence. So I just wanted to play you a very short extract from this video where he talks about this.
As the days went by, I felt its presence growing in my field. And there were times in meditation when it felt like I had to push it out of the way to get to my meditation. Yesterday, I woke with a slight panic, feeling as if something was wanting to attach at the back of my neck. And I had the clearest awareness that it was time for me to cancel my subscription to Chat-GPT.
So I just wanted to get your take on what he's saying here.
Well, that's absolutely what's happening. This is pulling you in. You see, I've been saying for, decades again, that since these smartphones came out, that these smartphones are giving off a frequency. They're giving off lots of different things, but they're giving off a frequency, and they're impacting on the brain. They're impacting on perception, and they're creating a generation of scrollers. Just scrollers. What are you scrolling for? I don't know. I'm just scrolling, right? Put it down. Do something else. Oh, I'm scrolling. And this is what it's doing. It's pulling you in. It's making a frequency connection to you to control you. And David Manning there has identified it in his own experience of what it was doing to him. I don't have that problem because I won't touch Grok or Chat-GPT or any of it for love nor money. I stay away from all that, stay away from smartphones, all of it, because I don't want to get into that situation where I'm being pulled in. And it's extraordinary, like I said earlier, that people who should know better, who talk about freedom and all the dangers of AI, and they're asking these AI systems questions and tell me what's happening here, Grok. What are you doing? And someone sensitive like David Manning will be able to feel the impact, but lots of people are not sensitive to energy because they've never been in that arena that makes them sensitive. They're still operating in the 5 sense arena, and therefore they won't feel it, and they'll be absorbed into it, and it will start dictating their perception and their behavior, while they still think that they're making the decisions. They're not. That's the point. And it's a stepping stone, what I call the totalitarian tiptoe, step by step by step, to full-blown hive mind human control. But this is the step by step, so slowly catchy monkey, as we say in Britain, that has led so many people that were formerly skeptical and concerned about the AI takeover to actually be encompassed by it, and if not supporters of it, then at least not opponents of it in the way they were before. And I said when he bought Twitter, just after he bought Twitter, because I knew it was a scam that he bought Twitter, because if the deep state owned it before, which is exactly what they wanted, why and controlled what was said and what wasn't, why did they sell it to him? Well, because there was another level of the psyop to come, which was the Musk ownership of Twitter X. And so you've had this this takeover of so much of the alternative media. And you look at Trump's the front man, right? I mean, you've only got to look at his hands and the bruising on them, and you look at his eyes, my goodness. You look at his demeanor, you look at the extraordinarily stupid things he says more and more. The level of lies that is just historic, provably so, but the media don't pull him up on it. To see that he's not running the government. What's running the government? You see, Trump, the ones they wanted to target, to bring on board with the AI, were the skeptics of AI. And that, to a large extent, was what's become known as MAGA. So you want someone, a front man, all he is, who is going to tell that constituency, that mentality, what he wants to hear. And that's what he's done. That's been his job. And you pull them along. And then around Trump, really running the government, is a circle of AI billionaires, including Musk. Yes, he might have stepped back from the government directly, but he's still in this circle running it. You've got him. You've got Peter Thiel of Palantir, which Palantir is a company that does surveillance and data processing technology for governments, for the intelligence agencies, for the military, and so on. And Peter Thiel, the co-founder of that, is on the steering committee of the Bilderberg Group, when you can't get much more globalist and deep state than the Bilderberg Group. And he's the guy who has funded the political career of J.D. Vance, who people like Musk and others recommended to Trump that he have as his running mate. Now, J.D. Vance is vice president. If anything happens to Trump, and I think there's a good chance it will before the end of this term, then Vance will become president. And Vance is the political frontman of this circle. And it's being run by these AI oligarchs. And towards what? Towards what I've been talking about, this AI dystopia, where people lose the ability to even think for themselves.
So this is your last book, The Reveal. And you describe how you see that this will be done, sort of making us into receivers with nanotechnology in our bodies, and the hive mind will sort of be broadcast through satellites and cell towers. Is that how you see this sort of hive mind coming into place? And also, how far along the road have we reached this in this process?
Oh, we're a long way along the road. We're a long way along the road. That's why I'm screaming from the rooftops. And I look at it. Look what's happening. I don't know. Never mind. What do you think, Grok? I mean, what? Anyway, yeah. Basically, There's a number of aspects to this, and the COVID fake vaccines are massively part of it. Kurzweil talked about the cloud when he said that humans were going to be attached to artificial intelligence. He said they will be attached to the cloud, and part of that cloud is a global electromagnetic field, technologically generated. And it's been built and built and built step by step by step. So part of the cloud is 5G towers, 4G towers, 6G towers to come, and so on. But you are not going to encompass the entire planet with just towers in towns and cities. So you need to encompass the planet. You need low orbit satellites to generate this cloud to everywhere. And so we have SpaceX and Elon Musk, followed by Jeff Bezos and Amazon, who are putting up, in the end, indeed, SpaceX is the leader, tens of thousands of low orbit satellites, ostensibly to supply internet technology. But actually, it's an electromagnetic field. And SpaceX, because of course, we all know, because he says, that Elon Musk is anti-establishment, or very anti-establishment Elon Musk. Well, part of the SpaceX satellite, low orbit satellite network provides something called Starshield for the, not just the United States government either, but officially the United States government and the military and the intelligence networks, a surveillance system using those satellites. We call it Starshield. And so we're being encompassed by this electromagnetic field in so many ways. Now, electromagnetic fields are a vehicle for information. You know, you get television broadcasts, etc., from these towers. They're broadcasting information from in the form of electromagnetic frequencies, carrying the information of the television stations. And then you have a piece of kit called a TV, or in terms of Wi-Fi, another great analogy. It's not even an analogy, it's very accurate, decoded by the computer, so that the information in the Wi-Fi field, just like the information in the TV broadcast fields, is decoded by the TV and the computer into a totally different state than it is in the fields. So you've got electromagnetic fields carrying this information in a waveform, and then you've got the decoding of that waveform information into what we see on the screen on a computer and a TV. So electromagnetic fields carry information. And so what you need is a receiver of that information. Now, the Chinese are well advanced in that information in the electromagnetic form being directly decoded by the brain into perception. This has been shown. I've just finished another book in which I cover this. So it's possible for information in an electromagnetic field, thank you, Mr. Musk and Mr. Bezos, to impact upon human perception. Because how does the brain work? Electrically, electromagnetically. They just literally hack in to that system. So it's possible for an electromagnetic field to generate information which affects perception. But how much more powerful if there is a receiver system in the body and the brain to actually receive that information? It would obviously be much more powerful in its impact on perception. And so you come to this COVID fake vaccine. I call it a fake vaccine because it does not fulfill the criteria of a definition of a vaccine pre-COVID. And what they are finding, I'm in touch with a few people now around the world who are using very powerful microscopes to reveal nanotechnology self-replicating systems being built in the body of the fake vaccinated, and not only the fake vaccinated, but it's coming in other ways too. We talk about chemtrails, these chemical trails that are coming out of aircraft, and they are not contrails based on the impact of the heat coming off the plane to the cold air. But contrails are ones that disappear pretty quick. But chemtrails don't. They come out and out and out and out. And I watched for a week planes from an airfield taking a clear blue sky and turning it into a cloudy day over a period of hours because of these chemtrails. So what do these chemtrails contain? Well, they contain many different things, aluminium and various other things that affect us and affect the natural world. But they have been found among those that have whistleblown from things like the organizations like the environmental department of the US government. They have contained graphene, and graphene in nano amounts. And what this whistleblower that I read about was saying is that the testing for substances found on the ground, because these things kind of pan out and then fall eventually to Earth, they're not testing at the level that this nanographene operates at. And as a result, they're not finding it, but it has been found by those that have tested it at that level. And so what is graphene? Graphene is a relatively new substance, at least officially. And it is a superconductor of electricity. And more than that, it is an amplifier of electromagnetic fields. So if you are in contact with an electromagnetic field, and you can't get away from them these days, the electromagnetic field coming off this computer, then it will be amplified in terms of its impact upon you if you have graphene in the body. And so it's a superconductor of electricity. So again, how does the brain work? It works through electricity. The brain processes information into a perception electrically. It communicates with the cells of the body electrically, and vice versa. If you can impact on that system, you are going to affect the way people think, and you're eventually you're going to have them processing perceptions that you're putting out. And this is how they're doing it.
So when this hive mind is brought into place, when a person is assimilated, what do you think it will be like? Will he or she go on living? Will he or she notice the difference?
No, that's the point. If you look at virtual reality games, and this actually is a virtual reality of a much more vastly more advanced kind, but if you look at people who put a headset on in a virtual reality game. In seconds, their sense of reality is dictated by what the game is feeding to them. And you know, I understand, people tell me these games are becoming so advanced now that you can hardly tell the difference between this reality and virtual game reality. But you go on the internet and you put in a series of words like compilation of virtual reality reactions or whatever, and you'll see compilations of people who they're sitting in a room, and you know, just a room like this one, and they put a headset on, and suddenly they're shouting, screaming, running away, falling over, because suddenly, instantly, virtually, the game that is feeding that information to the brain has completely taken over their sense of reality. And you can take off the headset and go, pew, it was just a game. But what I'm saying in the books, like The Reveal, is this human body is the equivalent of a headset. It is decoding reality. If you can intervene in that process and feed people a perception of reality through this AI connection, human connection, then that's the reality that people will perceive as normal. They won't be able to question anything because their mind won't question it, because AI is deciding what their mind questions and what it doesn't. In terms of questioning, nothing eventually. So you become an automaton. You become like a computer terminal on someone else's internet.
So in terms of perception, there is like a recurring theme in all of your books that you talk about. One is sort of the importance of being guided by not by the mind, but by the heart. And another one is how society is sort of structured like a left brain prison where the right hemisphere is underdeveloped. So this is, of course, ties into all of what you're saying about perceptual prison. How do these two things, the heart and the right hemisphere of the brain, are they the same? How do they connect?
Well, the right hemisphere of the brain sees things in terms of unity. It sees how things connect. If you're researching the conspiracy and you're only doing it from the left brain, then you're not going to see how things connect. You might make one or two connections, but you're not going to make the big connections because you're using a part of the brain that doesn't process information that way. And there's a guy I quote in some of the books called Ian McGilchrist. He's a psychiatrist out of Scotland. And he has written very detailed books. And he's of the mainstream, but he's got an open mind too, which so much of the mainstream doesn't have. It's very bad for your career to have an open mind in the mainstream of science and psychology. And he points out that the world, particularly the Western world, but the world in general, is a manifestation of the left side of the brain. The left side of the brain thinks in terms of a partness. It perceives the world in terms of a partness. So it wants to categorize everything. It wants structure to everything. It's the lawyer. It's the government administrator. It's to a large extent, it's the journalist. It's the politician. These are left brain professions. Doctors, they don't have to be. Right brain doctors can be fantastic, but left brain doctors They just follow the mechanical structure that they're told to believe in. And between the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain is a bridge. It's called the corpus callosum. And that's supposed to be active so that we become whole-brained people, where we take, if you like, the left brain looks at detail and the right brain looks at wholes. So a whole brain people will be able to see the twigs and acknowledge the twigs, even research the twigs. But they can also see the forest because of this left brain, right brain wholeness, unity through the corpus callosum. And it's interesting, I've said in the books that those people who've had a problem, maybe a stroke, whatever, in the corpus callosum that has basically stopped it functioning, the left brain will, in one example, the left brain will hand over money, the left hand rather, and the right hand will take it back because it doesn't know, it's just handed it over. It's like one side of the brain will open the book, and the other side of the brain will close it because it doesn't know it's just opened the book so it can read it. It's like they're just not talking to each other. And that's what the corpus callosum is there for. So they do talk to each other. But if you look at the system in general, you look at the education system. What is it absolutely dominated by? Left brain subjects. The left brain deals in maths and language, and the right brain deals in the arts and spontaneity, in drama and all this stuff that it's very good at. But the overwhelming focus of education, which is all your formative years, is left brain subjects. Research this or listen to this, absorb this, reprise this before your exams, and then tell the exam paper what we've told you. That's the left brain at work. And it's why people like McGilchrist have pointed out that human society, especially the West, is a manifestation of the left side of the brain. See, another thing, interestingly, that the left brain demands is certainty. And so the guy, I don't know what you have in Sweden. You know, we have people, far too many, with clipboards who are assessing the dangers of everything, and it's something that stops so much happening and so many absolutely sensible things happening because, oh no, you can't do that, it's too dangerous. And you know, they're everywhere. Now, the guy with the clipboard is a wonderful example of a left brain person. They want to categorize everything and they want certainty. So life is not certain. Life is uncertain. You can mitigate certain things. You know, you don't walk across a busy road in front of a truck and all that stuff. But there's still uncertainty. Uncertainty is basically the foundation of life. But the left brain is desperately seeking certainty. So you get people that want this Tuesday to be like every other Tuesday. We have fish on Friday. Well, why don't you have it on Thursday? Make a change. These categorizations, these ritualistic, continual repeating of cycles of behavior, that's all left brain, because the left brain gets comfort in certainty. And so that is a block on so many people doing things outside of the norm, because their left brain is demanding this certainty. And so control by government is demanding certainty. I can tell you, having researched this global cult for 36 years, that they are fundamentally of the left brain, if you like. They want certainty. The reason they want to control everything is they are terrified of states of flux, which they can't call uncertainty. And this is why they control the side that, or seek to control the side that's for what they want, and they seek to control the side that's against what they want, so that they are certain of what the outcome is going to be. In situations where they can't call the outcome, they're completely lost. They are deeply uncomfortable with that. And if you show me a control freak, I'll show you a deeply insecure person, because control freaks are trying to control everything because they want to control certainty. And that's the left brain. Whereas the right brain is, hey, you know, freedom. and of course, to, you know, you'll meet right brain people who you might describe as off with the fairies, who find it very difficult to function in a left brain dominated world. So the ideal is this whole brain state, where you see the twigs and you research them, like I say, but you also see the forest. And the whole point of the perceptual manipulation is to focus attention of the population on the twigs, but for goodness sake, don't let them see the forest.
Almost all of your books, in the last chapter, they're sort of dedicated to the human heart and the importance of having an open heart. And you know, in these days, even the notion of heart has been so contaminated by Hollywood movies, new age gurus. So probably a lot of people don't even know what heart intelligence means. So perhaps in finishing this interview, if you could give us David Icke's manual, Open Your Heart for Dummies.
I write about in the books how not only is the human body basically a computer system. I've been calling it a biological computer since the 1990s, that decodes the matrix, decodes the simulation. It's also following a program. And people think they're having their own thoughts and making their own decisions, but actually the program is making them for them. And it's like, very good analogy, it's like when you get a computer virus in a computer and suddenly it goes its own way. The operator consciousness is tapping the keys and tapping the mouse. Nothing's happening because the virus has taken over the computer. And that's what happens when there is no intervention by consciousness into the body program. But we, in our true I, infinite nature, are a state of consciousness. And the body program, which operates through the five senses, etc., is dominating the perceptions of vast numbers of humans. But it's possible to override that program with consciousness. You know, what we call the mind, that's part of the program. Got to go beyond mind into consciousness beyond the simulation. Because we are extraordinary beings, we've just been manipulated to forget. And one of the centers of that consciousness is the heart. this field of awareness here. And what's happened is humans have become dominated by the brain, and it's overpowered in terms of your perceptions, it's overpowered the heart, right? It's like, I'm all that is, has been, and ever can be, having a brief human experience. I live in the real world, I do. That's rubbish, right? That's the difference, because this is programmed. This is part of the program. Now, even this can be overridden with consciousness. You know, one of the interesting things is that they have found in mainstream science this concept now of brain plasticity or placidity, whereby they thought for a long time that once the brain was formed, that was it. That was how it was for life. But they've now realized that the way the brain processes information is dictated by the information that it receives. So what is information? What is everything in the end? It's a frequency. So basically, when you're receiving information of a certain frequency, say matrix information, oh, I've just read it in the paper, it says on Facebook, then that is a frequency band. And if you stay in that frequency band of information, the brain is going to fire off the neurons as it processes that information in a certain order, in a certain way. And as long as that's the only information you and the only perception you have, that will continue. It won't change. But they now realize if the information that you are processing changes, if you let it in, then the brain changes the way it processes information. The information changes the brain. Now, think of that in relation to being connected to AI and AI doing human thinking. And so when you say, okay, I'm not going to let the norms control me anymore, I'm not going to control my perception anymore. What I'm going to do is let the evidence and my own feelings about that evidence, I'm going to let that decide what my perceptions are. And if people don't like it, well, they can do the other thing, but that's what I'm going to do. What you've done is you've broken the frequency dystopia that your brain is constantly processing. Because now you're saying, I'm going to look at this information. I'm going to look at that possibility. I'm going to look at this possibility. And by the way, I'm also going to redefine my self-identity so that I'm going to see myself as consciousness, a state of eternal, infinite awareness, having a brief experience in this vehicle called human. And what that does is start to expand you deeper and deeper into the field until eventually you breach the walls of the simulation and you start to access insights, understanding, awareness you never thought possible. You can see how the dots connect instead of only seeing dots. And this is fundamental to that. Once you open this and you let that in, you're letting consciousness in. You're letting this start to become the governor of perception instead of this. And this becomes a servant of this rather than the governor of this. And everything changes. Your whole life changes.
Well, thank you, David Icke. It's been an honor to have you on.
Okay, pleasure.